Hello and welcome to this presentation on the study titled A GIS Multi-Criteria Evaluation for Identifying Potential Hotspots of Abandoned Coal Mining Contamination in the Forest of Dean, UK. Using the mapping software ArcGIS, this study's purpose was to identify the locations of potentially contaminated runoff accumulation associated to abandoned coal mine drainage in the Forest of Dean, and secondly to classify specific mines that could be of most concern due to the surrounding environmental characteristics. To complete the GIS-based study using a weighted suitability model, data was obtained from online sources and official bodies which can be seen in Table 1. The parameters for the model were decided after an extended literature review identifying the variables that influence potentially contaminated runoff. These variables were given weighted percentages of significance which can also be seen in Table 1. Slope has been identified as the most significant variable influencing runoff and has a weighting of 40%. The other variables are topsoil carbon stock, soil type, land use, and geology in order of decreasing significance. Figure 2 shows the workflow undertaken for determining the likely locations for contaminated runoff. The workflow of the model requires defining the model goal and criteria, which is to identify the most fitting locations in the Forest of Dean for potentially contaminated runoff from abandoned coal mines, considering the chosen variables. The derived data was then transformed to a common suitability scale by assigning each cell in the surface a suitability score between 0 and 100, which can be seen in Table 2. The transformed data, which represents the model criteria, is then weighted and combined into a single suitability surface that meets the model's goal. The suitable locations are then determined, which is the outcome of the model. The results from the weighted suitability model, which can be seen in Figure 3, identify the suitability locations for runoff sinks assumed to be contaminated by poor quality coal mine drainage. The map also shows the locations of all the mines within the Forest of Dean against the characterised suitability areas. The lowest suitability values are shown as the dark green areas and the highest as the red areas on the map. The lowest suitability scores were identified as 16.1 out of 100, the highest in the analysis being 94.5 out of 100. Approximately 80% of the total study area has been identified as areas between the categories of likely to detect a contamination runoff hotspot and highly fitting contaminated runoff hotspot. This information can be seen in Table 3, which breaks down each category and shows that the 80% equates to 649.4 kilometers squared. A further analysis was undertaken in the study using the zonal statistics tool on ArcGIS. The tool was used to identify the mines that are of most concern regarding the likelihoods of contaminated runoff accumulation within a chosen 500-metre buffer zone. This was determined from a study published by Angeliki in 2010. By using the tool, it showed that a total of 84 out of the 210 mines within the study area are located in regions considered as very likely to detect contamination hotspots, and therefore are areas of environmental concern in regard to coal mine drainage, considering the variables in this study. Furthermore, a total of 110 abandoned mines in the area have also been identified to be above the mean suitability score of 55, which is more than half of the mines located in the Forest of Dean. The environmental variables that greatly influence the likelihood of areas becoming sinks for contaminated mine drainage are slopes between 0 and 15%, a topsoil carbon stock of 25 to 35%, the soil type of clay-based soils, a land use classification of water and impervious ground, and lastly the geology type of mudstone and sandstone. The key findings from the study are that more than half of the study area is above the mean suitability score of 55, which are areas where it's likely to detect contaminated runoff hotspots. Also, that 84 mines are within areas that are identified as locations within the surrounding environmental characteristics that place these mines in the areas of environmental concern in regard to abandoned mine drainage. There are, however, a few limitations to the study, these being that it is a purely theoretical and data-driven study which relies on the data that was sourced being accurate. To identify how reliable this study is, additional in-field sampling of the chosen variables would need to take place. Thank you for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.